guys. Okay, guys. It's Rosegroom / Octavia Melody here, and I am bringing creepypasta to you via live stream. So pictures quality will not be as high. My editing of my voice is not really going to be done. So you're going to kind of hear me more like when I play games with my voice, and so you're going to hear me run out of breath much more often than that. I hope you guys can understand that with me not going full live, not going video at the moment. I'm going to say this once and only once. I don't want to push you guys and make you feel like anything like this. I'm starting a patronage channel. It's to help me make some money right now because I am in a rough time, and this is going to help me make some money on the side for me to begin actually trying to make this a career, because if I can make this a full-time job, guys, I'll actually begin doing more creepypastas and things like that. I need kind of a push. I have to have a way of income right now to make this happen. Without income, it's not going to happen. So that's all I'm going to say. I'll put the, every video I'll put the patronage channel at the very bottom. If you guys want to donate $1 or whatever, anything helps. But you don't have to. This is just get me going. If you really like me, if you really want me to continue doing my videos and that, it's the only way I can really do full videos anymore. But I'm here to do creepypasta for you guys. I'm bringing 2 creepypastas to you tonight. I might do a SCP video depending on how I feel. First video I'm going to do is The Amazing World of Gumball Grieving. It's been requested by Omar a lot, so I'm finally going to do it for him. So Omar, if you're watching or if you're going to watch, this is for you. I'm also going to be doing Strangled Red, which is one of my favorite creepypastas that I want to read to you guys. It's long. Both of these are very long, so we're going to be here a while, guys. And as always, at the end of the video, I'm going to do my whole commentary on it, and I'm going to do everything I can to debunk if it's real or not. Okay, guys? So, let's get into this. First one here is Amazing World of Gumball, The Grieving. I've always loved Cartoon Network. When I was growing up, it was one of my favorite channels to watch. Even today, it has some good shows like Adventure Time and Regular Show. One of the newest shows on the network is The Amazing World of Gumball. It is a cute and mildly entertaining show. Not really my cup of tea, it's a little immature, but my little brother seems to like it a lot. One day I was watching Adult Swim when I realized that I'd been up so late that I hadn't even kept track of the time. It was already 4 a.m. I don't recall ever watching Adult Swim this late, so I stayed awake to see what would happen when it ended. A little bumper showed up at the bottom of the screen during a commercial break and said the special episode of The Amazing World Gumball was about to come on. I was a little confused about an episode of a very popular new show coming on this early, but I was bored and decided I'd watch it, thinking it might come on later in the day so I could spoil it for my brother. Sort of mean, I know. The flashy and energetic intro theme played, although it was played a little differently than I recall. The music was a little different, the show logo wasn't animated, its colors were done rather sloppy as well, almost like something a little kid would do in MS Paint. I ignored it, assuming that it was just done for this special episode. The title of the episode was The Grieving. Sort of sad title, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. A lot of the shows had things like that these days. It began with Gumball, the show's 12-year-old protagonist, standing alone facing a corner of his dimly lit classroom. He looked absolutely miserable, a far cry from the cheerful demeanor he usually had. There was no one else in the room, not even his best friend and adopted brother Darwin the goldfish, and the windows in the room clearly showed the night sky outside. I was really starting to get confused. Why would he be at school at night, and why would he be standing in the corner all sad and alone? After about what seemed like a minute of Gumball standing somberly in the corner, the scene suddenly changed. We were at the Gumball's house. Once again, the scene is silent and a little discreeting. Richard, Gumball's enormous rabbit father, walks in from the kitchen. He looked even more miserable than Gumball had in the previous scene. Richard isn't wearing his usual attire. He's dressed in a fancy black suit, a little uncharacteristic of him. He's usually a slob. He sighs and slumps down onto the sofa and starts sobbing, instantly sounding like someone who had just lost something important. I was starting to get a little creeped out. Where was the silly, fun cartoon that I usually look forward to watching with my younger brother? This was something completely different. I was beginning to think that this might have been something the creators did as an experiment or something. A test for the animation or some perhaps. Though it couldn't have been aside from the opening theme, which was still different from the final shows. The episode had been much quieter than it usually was. Only subtle mute sounds and very little music. And the animation was not anything to write home about either. It was done a bit like an amateur flash of Newgrounds. The characters' designs were somewhat sloppy and rushed looking, and the real-life backgrounds used for the show looked different. As confused and somewhat frightened as I was for some reason, I kept watching it. Poor Richard was still sobbing on the sofa. As the front door opened suddenly, making a jump a bit at such a loud noise, and Gumball's mother, Nicole, a blue cat like him, stepped in. Like Richard, she was wearing her usual outfit for some reason. She was in a black dress and was wearing a pretty black hat to match. Nicole sat down on the couch to comfort her husband, although she looked looking a bit sad in herself. But by this point, Richard's crying had begun to get more pained and miserable sounding. This wasn't the normal cartoon crying on the show. This was realistic and almost depressing, and almost depressing crying. I almost felt like sobbing myself. Finally, after what seemed like hours, the sad scene at the home ended. As it shifted back to the school, we weren't in Gumball's classroom this time. We were in Principal Brown's office. Nicole and Richard were there in their usual clothes, looking more normal and happy than they had before, but still slightly worried. Principal Brown, however, looked extremely sad. He quietly and somberly informed them that their children, Annis and Darwin, were not present after lunch earlier that day. They hadn't been seen at all the rest of the day. Nicole was instantly furious at him. She began spouting various insults and calls at him that I don't think would have made it on a more mature program like regular show. I was laughing at this because it seemed sort of funny for Nicole to flip out in this manner and start swearing like a sailor in the G-rated cartoon. But my outlook soon changed when Principal Brown told her something else after she finally had quieted down. His eyes began to tear up as he informed them they were eventually found, but they had not been found alive. He then went into a graphic and nearly nauseating detail describing how the bodies were found. The parents sitting in utter shock. I could hardly believe what was happening. How could such a cheery and fun kid show be taking such a dark and twisted turn? I was considering turning off the television, but I was too scared to be left in the dark by now, nearly frozen by the fear and disturbing intensity at the terrible things that he was saying. Another flashback. The scene was earlier that day, and the animation in this scene was even worse than earlier. I don't remember it very clearly, but I think he began his recollection by saying that the school had called the police department when they first turned up missing. Believing that the kids had simply ran off and decided to skip school, they said it was very uncharacteristic of both Darwin and Annis to go skipping school like delinquents. Darwin was a little naive and a bit ditzy, but he was a good kid and wouldn't have dreamed of doing something like that. And Annis was even less likely to run away. She was a straight-A student despite being only 4, which also troubled the police, seeing as a defenseless 4-year-old little girl was missing as well as the older brother. The school had been thoroughly checked, so the police started to search the heavy wooded area outside the school. It took a little time for the police to discover the horrid fate of Annis. In a small clearing outside of the school, Annis's head was found in a small box. You would have expected something like that to be shown in the show's cutesy art style, but there was nothing like that at all. Realistic blood covered the box, inside and out, while Annis's head was done in the normal style, but was drenched in blood and some other fluids. There was a note in the box seemingly written in her blood. It was never stated during the episode what exactly was written on the note, but it apparently led to the rest of her remains and Darwin's heavily mutilated corpse. What I remember most about the scene was how out of place it seemed. All the blood and gore from Darwin and Annis's slaughtered and dismembered remains was done in a very realistic and disturbing way. It looked like the scene had been taken from a crime scene photograph done by a professional, not something from a cartoon. The way this scene was animated was different from most of the show as well. You may know that the characters from the series are done in a vastly differing animation styles, from flash animation to CGI, and I think there is even a character done by someone putting their chin upside down to make a face. The particular scene wasn't like anything I had ever seen on the show before. Every little detail on Darwin's face was clearly illustrated. He looked like a little like a zombie. His face was very pale and his eyes had been gouged out by someone. Annis fared no better, or what was left of her anyway. She was naked and her stomach had been slit open. Her intestines were strewn around the trees and bushes in the woods, done once again in a very morbid and realistic style. I was feeling very ill by the time this incredibly disturbing flashback had come to an end, so I quickly ran to the bathroom to vomit. I was feeling better after upchucking. So I had realized that I had run to the bathroom during a commercial. It was then I noticed that the show had been running twice as long. It usually ran for 11 minutes, but this episode was running for about 30. But by then I was wondering if there was any information on the Grieving on IMDb or something. So while the commercials were still playing, I looked up some information about the episode on Google. Nothing came up. No information remotely similar to the plot or name of the episode existed anywhere. Now, incredibly scared and wondering if anyone else was watching, I quickly dialed my brother Larry and asked him to turn on Cartoon Network and see if he was seeing the same shit I was seeing. He was pretty mad that I woke him up at this hour, but he's a nice guy and told me he would see for me. I thanked him and stayed on the line as the show came back from commercial break. The scene had thankfully panned away from the horrific sight of the mutilated children and was back on the principal's office. I asked Larry if he saw the same cartoon animals talking or crying, since that was what they were doing on my TV. To my surprise, he said he saw nothing like that. Instead, it was a rerun of an old Looney Tunes shirt, and in utter shock, I dropped the phone and ran over to the TV to turn it off. And as hard as I pressed the buttons, it would not shut off at all. I tried every single button and none of them did a thing. I tried unplugging the whole set as well, but nothing worked. The TV stayed on no matter what. Larry had hung up, assuming that I was playing a joke or something, I guess, and I was alone once again. My door was locked from the outside somehow, and the door to my bathroom was now locked as well. It seemed that I had no choice but to call the police, since my other family members were gone at that night. It was the reason I could stay up so late to watch Adult Swim in the first place. When I hurried and dialed the number, I accidentally dropped my cell phone into my cup of Pepsi. I was very scared and had no choice but to finish the episode. I turned on all the lights in my room and got under the covers, hiding like my little brother does when I make him watch a scary movie with me. I apparently missed a little bit, but Gumball's parents were still talking to Principal Brown, so not that much. Nicole was asking if Gumball was alright. Apparently, since she hadn't remembered him when Principal Brown told her what had happened to Darwin and Annis. He looked slightly confused and shocked after a moment and explained to her that the thought of Gumball was out sick today and he had spent the day at home by himself with a stomach bug. Nicole screamed and wailed, while Richard quietly told him in a very out-of-character voice that they thought Gumball had got on the bus this morning, but it didn't seem that way. The police was called once again to search the building in the small forest outside of Elmore Junior High. They had found him in Miss Shaman's classroom, hanging by a noose, with a blood-covered knife behind him, and blood covering his clothing. The episode ended with a shot of Gumball's dead body hanging in the corner, fading to black. The credits rolled silently. Not like the usual way Cartoon Network unknowingly airs a promo that squishes at the screen. These credits rolled unusually slow and they weren't that fun to watch either. A little creepy, just plain white text going on the black background. I only recognized Ben Bankert's name as he was the creator of the show. The rest were people I never heard of. The copyright notice that then said Cartoon Network Studios 2001, which was incredibly odd, seeing as the show was new for 2011. After all that was over, the screen went static for a split second, during which some incredibly creepy and shocking video clips were shown between static intervals. I can still remember them all very clearly. The first was a picture of a person in a play doctor outfit. Those always scared me for some reason, and the way the person in the suit was filmed was just bad. A red light, something that freaks me out incredibly, was shown over the clip. The next was what seemed like a video being played very quickly, over and over, of a kitten's face being squished by a woman wearing high heels. Which was strange because a so-called friend of mine sent me a picture yesterday of a cat being stepped on and killed, similar to the kitten in the video. The last one was the one that disturbed me the most and made me want to both cry and vomit my guts out. It was my little brother, or at least a small child who looked really similar to him, being shot in the face by a person who looked like my father. You could clearly see the child's brains and blood splatter at the wall. I began to sob uncontrollably in the traumatizing clip, so much so that I passed out. When I woke up, my door was unlocked and my television was turned off. I went to call the police on the home phone in my kitchen and reported that I had seen some very disturbing things on TV and that my doors had been locked. When they arrived, they could find nothing like that, like what I remember from earlier this morning. My internet history was even cleared. They were angry at me and just assumed that I had a bad nightmare when I was sure I hadn't. Thankfully, one of the officers felt bad for me and took me out to a small diner so I could recollect my thoughts. At the diner, I remember that my family was out visiting my aunt, and they were supposed to be back by noon, so it was already 11, so the officer and I drove back, only to find a whole squad of police cars and even some government agents at my house. They explained to me that my little brother was missing, and that my mother and father were major suspects. I was freaking out and trying to tell them about the disturbing clip of the boy who looked like my brother being shot in the head, but they wouldn't listen. I stayed with my older brother, Larry, who wouldn't believe me either, still insisting that all they saw was an old Looney Tunes cartoon, and nothing at all creepy or weird. The cops eventually told me that they would contact Turner Broadcasting and tell them about the incident. A representative of Turner Broadcasting came to my cousin's house and told me in private about what I had seen and experienced that night. He was very kind, but it all seemed like a little, sort of front. After I could tell him all I remember, he agreed to play back the day's programming from when the incident with the disturbing Gumball episode had occurred. To my shock, all that was airing at that time was an old Looney Tunes shirt, nothing more, nothing less. I hysterically sobbed and moaned that when I had experienced that scene was completely real, but no one listened. Eventually I discovered Ben Baccarat had a Twitter account. I sent a message about the episode, and this was the reply I got. One thing. How in the heck did you find that? I never, ever, ever thought I would think about that old shame again. Don't tell anyone this, Sarah. Yes, that's my name. But the amazing world of Gumball goes back farther than you know. I used to have a really boring job as a teen, and I sketched little comics of the Watersons and friends. The episode you saw was never supposed to be seen by anyone but me and a few friends of mine. It was a very, very awful thing to do, but we made the episode as a joke. The guy from my old job, who everyone hated, had lost a kid to a crazy serial killer, who was apparently still out there somewhere. Anyway, we made it so we could make fun of how he came into work usually crying like a fool, which is why you saw Mr. and Mrs. Larson crying so much in the episode. I know I am deeply sorry for what I did, is why I tried to bury that stupid thing years ago. Literally, I went out into the countryside with my mates and dug a hole and buried it. What I don't get, though, is how you describe the blood and guts and stuff. We didn't have any scene with Darwin and Annis's body being found. All that happens in the episode is my parents are informed of the kids being found dead and them crying like crazy. We didn't even draw anything in the episode like that. At all. We're not that sick. Now, this is my theory. The lunatic who killed the man's child found the tape we buried, watched it, and heavily edited it. Then he hijacked the local TV station near the city where you live somehow, and got the episode to air on local Cartoon Network station. Now, why your cousin couldn't see it, I have no idea. Why it seems you're the only one who saw it, I have no idea either. Sorry, but I just don't know. Now for the explanation you have been waiting for the clips at the end. I don't know. I don't know. I'm deeply sorry from the bottom of my heart, but I don't know why those clips were aired. I just don't. I'm sorry. I really am. But me and my mates are just the ones who made those scenes with Richard and Nicole crying. That's it. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'm so deeply sorry. Best wishes, Ben Beckert, and everyone involved with the grieving. Okay. Few things, guys. That was a good creepypasta. But, God, we gotta get away from the realistic blood and realistic gore. That shit is driving me fucking insane. This whole realistic thing is just retarded. It kills a great creepypasta. And I think Strangled Red even had this. And I just, this is the one thing I can't get off of it. Is this whole realistic blood. Listen, you're writing a creepypasta. We're going to assume there's realistic blood and realistic gore in it. I'd rather you say, oh, it was a cartoony blood and cartoony gore. Okay, I'm going to believe that a lot more than when you tell me realistic blood, because every damn creepypasta, hyper-realistic, realistic, it's killing me. It's killing me, and that's why I'm getting tired of creepypastas as much as I love them. This constant use of realistic blood is driving me crazy. But for the grieving of Gumball, it's a good creepypasta. I really like the build up to it and how it feels. Just the build up to it. The one thing I'm confused about is the beginning with Gumball standing in the corner. And now, it said it was late at night he was standing in the corner. And what's bugging me about this is supposedly this all happened during the daytime. When this all happened. And, you know, you see at night, you see the later part where both the parents are crying, you know. I'm guessing they got done with the funeral, that's why they were all in the black and things like that. And that does the flashback to them finding out about them dying. Now, what confuses me is, one, after both Annis and Darwin are found dead, they say Gumball never checked into school today. Yet, how is he in the classroom hung? I am sure that day there was classes, and no one saw him doing this. This is where I get confused. And if you're telling me that, oh, he killed him, and he ended up coming back during the lunch period and hanging himself, you're telling me he did all this in half an hour. That's the issue. Because with him holding the knife, you're pretty much telling me Gumball killed both of these people, and somehow during the lunch period, in half an hour, killed these people, strung their organs everywhere, and then got into his classroom with all the kids still at lunch in half an hour and hung himself. Now, the next thing I go to is how does he end up in class that night standing in the corner? There is some inconsistencies here that makes me not really want to believe what you're telling me. The next thing is the doors locking and everything locking him out. Come on. We know that's BS. It's nearly impossible for that to happen. I'd much rather said, you know, it told me he could still hear it or he could still see it in his head. That would have been more believable. But other than that, I actually really love the creepypasta. Omar, thank you for the recommendation. That was a really good pasta. Now, as it for being real, I'm going to say 50-50. Here's the thing. I highly doubt that the creator actually sent this person the message. Unless you can show me proof of Ben Bakeritz actually sending him the message, I'm not going to believe it. Thing is, you got a lot of effed up people in the world that will take this, find it. If they find it, they will edit it to what they want and post it. The thing with him just saying it, I just don't believe it. I mean, I've seen plenty of these creepypastas that ended up being true. The only reason is multiple people seeing it. They had some type of recording. They had some type of proof of seeing it. From a picture shot to something. This right now, I'm going to put on, I love the creepypasta, but I don't believe the creepypasta. It's that simple. Let me grab a charger, guys. I'll be right back, and I'm going to get the Strangled Red right away, okay?
Loading started. Page loaded. Loading started.
Whew.
Page loaded.
Okay guys, I'm back and I got Strangled right up here. Now this one's longer than the Grieving. Okay guys, so be prepared for this. This one I'm excited to read. I actually tried to do a video of this a while ago. There was a lot of background static. There was a lot of issues about this video when I tried to make it. That kind of freaks me out. But let's get into Strangled Red, okay? Strangled Red. There are a ton of stories out there about hacked Pokemon games. Some of them really quite neat, such as the one about a version where you get a ghost as a starter. Some more ridiculous, silly stories about individuals dying after playing a game, or the game talking to them. God, don't these writers know less is more when it comes to these stories? Well, I digress. I grew interested in these hacked games that are apparently in any thrift store or on eBay or handed out by homeless people to random passerbyers. I didn't have the pleasure of meeting these creepy people. I merely found this particular cartridge in a trash bin when the garbage truck backed into my neighbor's dumpster. Ugh. I noticed the game and asked the trash man if I could take it. He didn't seem to mind. It was thrown away after all. I, of course, checked with the neighbor to confirm if they actually didn't want it, though they seemed perplexed if they never seen it there in their life. Their son made a grab for it, a little boy who saw the Charizard on the cover, crying out, "Pokemon! I want Mommy!" But his mother told him no, seeing as I found it. He didn't even have a Game Boy anyway. He just liked Pokemon. Thinking nothing more, I simply went home, looking at the cartridge's sticker on the way, just a plain old red version. The sticker torn slightly across Charizard's neck, but that was expected with such an old game. I had a blue version as a kid, so I was a bit eager to see the, albeit minimal differences, red version. Okay.
Loading started. Page loaded.
I was rather disappointed by what I saw when the title screen showed up. Pokemon Strangled Red version. Well, damn it, it was a hack. Hacks were neat and all, but they had zero monetary value. The original was quite valuable by now, and I wanted to play Red anyway, not this crap. Oh well, it was free. Might as well try it. The name was Red, however. Strangled Red? That made no sense. Not even in a morbid description of someone being asphyxiated. As people turn blue when choking, not red. Who knows, maybe there was a pair of these hacks and I just got the red one. The more I thought about this, though, the more interested I became. My initial disappointment turned into curiosity. I wanted to know what the creator had made, and I was going to note everything I saw. The first oddity I noticed was that the screen had a Charizard next to the trainer instead of a Charmander. Also, the Pokemon never cycled through like the original versions did. It just stayed Charizard, even after 5 minutes of waiting. I shrugged. Hit start. Noticed there was no Charizard cry as I did, like there was supposed to be. I saw there was a continue option, so I figured I'd do what everyone did when with used games and see what previous owner had done. Quotation showed. No. I blinked in surprise. No? What do you mean, no? The game wouldn't let me continue, no matter what, though on the fourth attempt I heard the Charizard cry. Quiet and barely audible. But they're shrugging it off? I decided to just hit new game, like I would have done after checking the old file anyway. The screen cut to black for a while. No Professor Oak, no starting theme, just nothing at all. Eventually the screen came back showing a bedroom, 2 beds, 2 TVs, and a computer in the corner. My trainer sprite was the usual one, consistent with the original red version. I was curious as to why it didn't ask my name, though that was answered as I opened the pause menu, noticing my trainer name was Steven. No, this isn't my real name or some stupid crap like that. This game isn't self-aware or haunted, at least not that I know of. It just had a name chosen already. Curious, I saw he had the starter amount of money, no badges. He didn't look like Red though. His hair was longer, almost reaching halfway down his back. Red's usual smile replaced with a confident smirk. Honestly, I found this sprite much cooler than Red. Next, I checked out his Pokemon, a single Charmander, level 5, named Mickey. Nothing was odd about it, or I should say her, with the name and all. She had beginning Charmander stance, only knew Scratch and Tail Whip, basic stuff. The game seemed relatively normal. Returning to the game, I walked about the room, noticing Steven's long hair was present on the back of my trainer sprite when my back was turned to the camera. I didn't recognize the house though, but I descended down the stairs to see more. Downstairs was another trainer who spoke to me the instant I came down. Mike. Ready yet? Steven. Yeah. I assumed this was Mike, my rival. Pre-decided for me. A replacement of Blue, most likely. So I thought back to the bedroom having 2 beds. Realizing there weren't just rivals, they were brothers. They talked back and forth, basic Pokemon dialogue, becoming a Pokemon master, gotta catch 'em all. Stuff like that before having a little argument of which is better, Charmander or Squirtle. Which of course led to the introduction battle, like the one versus Blue in the lab. Simple enough, scratch, tackle, till I won purely for having the first turn. I took note of how much better Steven's sprite looked in combat than Red. A different pose, his hair looking like it was blown up in the wind. Minor upgrade, but still much nicer. I left the house after some more banter with my brother, stepping out to Pallet Town, scene. Going to the east, I found there was indeed Pallet Town. The house was simply on the outskirts to the west. I noticed there was no mysterious grassy field like normal Pallet Town. Wandering about, I decided to check in on Red's home. His mother was inside, and when I talked to her, she commented on how handsome Steven looked, hoping her son would look up to him as a role model for when he became a trainer himself next year. Which of course led to me to realize that the game took place a year before the original Pokemon. Red was even upstairs playing the Super Nintendo in his room, commenting, "I'm going to be the best too when it's my turn." I was starting to like this hack. It was interesting, a completely new adventure, a different character. Hell, Steven even seemed to have his history with the people in his town, a reputation. A personality beyond a silent protagonist. The people in town talked to him as a person, making conversation, not just spouting tutorial crap. Even his blue sister had new dialogue. They seemed to be in a relationship too, as the dialogue ended with a kiss and a heart over her head. Professor Oak seemingly wished me well, giving me a Pokédex to aid my adventure. He wasn't giving it to me to be the reason behind the adventure like every other Pokemon game out there. He gave it to me out of kindness, something to help me on my way, a gift. It was like I was liking this more and more with each second. The game seemed to have an actual story now. I was somebody, not just a cookie-cutter protagonist. Anyone could be. No, not some blank sheet that could be replaced without notice. The story was different though. The actual gameplay remained unchanged. I went north like I was supposed to. Went from town to town, collected badges, received praise of the leaders. Steven's fame even seemed to be spread as some NPCs would talk like they knew him. I used Mickey for every battle. She was growing surprisingly fast. She handled Brock with ease. Even pounded Misty with no trouble at all. She wasn't as adversely affected by super effective attacks as others. Did more damage than a regular Charmander. She was a veritable powerhouse. She even became a Charizard at the mere level of 25. Not bad, I must say. Things started to get weird though as soon as I reached Lavender Town. I know, Lavender Town is the focus behind every creepy fucking story out and the like, but it was the only place that was noticeably different. There was no Team Rocket invasion, which I found odd. Though I do remember this was a year in the past, so the invasion wouldn't occur until Red's time. I tried to enter Pokemon Tower, aiming to get a Ghastly, but that's when it got odd. Steven, I have no reason to be here. Steven wouldn't go into the Pokemon Tower no matter what I did. This was weird. I mean, hell, there are a million places in Cantor you really have no need to be. Little random houses with nothing but children and NPCs, for example. Why was it here that Steven wouldn't enter? With a shrug, I figured I wouldn't need a Ghastly, seeing as Mickey could handle anything, so I simply went on my way. Lavender Town serving no purpose other than a passageway with the Pokemon Center. The game progressed normally from there. The remaining gyms fell, and eventually I made my way to the Elite Four and defeated them. As with Blue, my brother Mikey was there before me, initiated the championship battle, which Mickey swept with ease. The aftermath of the battle was quite pleasant. None of the tension that was between Red and Blue at the end of their match. The brothers congratulated each other on their progress and shook hands before the screen went white. No Hall of Fame, no credits. When the screen came back, it was at the house again, the two brothers sitting at the computer conversing with each other. Steven. I don't want to. Mike. Come on, I just gotta borrow her for a second to finish the Pokédex. The entry won't register unless she recognizes me as a master for just a second. Steven. But she's my Mickey. Mike. I promise I'll give her back. Come on, please? Yes? No? It gave me an option. I was a bit complex, so I hit no to be cautious. Mike, come on, please? I hit no again. Mike, come on, please? I realized that would simply continue to loop until I hit yes, so I did. Just to see what would happen. Mike, alright, this will just take a sec. Then we'll both be Pokemon Masters, Steven. Steven dots. The screen changed to animation shown when two people trade Pokemon, which I found a bit weird, seeing as I was solo. But whatever. This was what was apparently supposed to happen. Mickey went first. I watched lazily as she began to travel down the trading tube. Snap! This made me jump. The sudden noise resonated in my silent bedroom, loud to the volume being way up. Looking at the screen, I noticed the game seemed to freeze. Mickey's still in mid-trade. The game wasn't doing anything. With a sigh, I just turned off the game, wondering when my last save was. When the game turned back on, I stared at it. I stared for a moment at the screen. There was no Charizard next to the trainer. Upon pressing start, I saw the new game option was absent, leaving only continue. This was strange to say the least, so I selected it. The game staring without even showing my stat as usual. My jaw dropped at what I was greeted with. 1 year later. The Lavender Town scene came first, playing its normal way. The screen slowly fading from blackness. Steven was in the Pokemon Tower, which made the music even stranger. Seeing as the tower had its own theme, he was standing in front of a tombstone. Not doing anything. Wondering what was going on, I pressed A. Steven. ... Confused, I tried walking, realizing I was indeed in control at the moment. I brought to pause menu and checked my party. Mickey was gone. Not just Mickey, all Pokemon. He had nothing. The Pokédex was absent from the menu. His bag was empty. Honestly concerned, I checked his trainer card. 1 second. He had no money, he had no badges. His playtime was 8,795 hours, which was impossible as I only had 30 logged in before. But that wasn't the strangest part. His picture. The picture of the handsome, confident young trainer was different. His eyes were blank. His face turned slightly down. The smirk of his was gone, replaced by a lack of any expression at all. The long hair of his, before in a perfect perm, was now messy and unkempt. I couldn't look at him anymore. Closing the menu, I went to move out of the tower, but with every step I took away from the tombstone, the screen flickered, like it did when a Pokemon was poisoned. Gulping, I brought up the trainer card again. His picture was getting worse. Every step I took, he hung his head more and more. His shoulders slumped. He bent over. By the time I had exited the tower, he was on his knees, hands to his face, hair draped across him. I guessed already what was going on, but this clinched it. I began to put things together in my mind. I had always wondered why there was no champion in the original games besides your rival. Why is it you, the protagonist, had to beat your rival? When he just waltzed in, no previous champ challenge. Then it struck me. The answer was right here. The previous champion gave up. His precious Mickey was apparently dead. And with her, so died part of him. His Pokédex, other Pokemon, his badges, his fame, all of it, he threw it away. And that year, The year that I missed. The year where all the hours came from. Hell, I even did the math. There is 8,765 hours in a year. Add that to my 30 hours from before and it matched up. Even so, the game kept going. This should have been an ending, I thought. Shit, and there goes my phone. Give me 1 second, guys. I'll be right back with the rest of the creepypasta, okay? Okay, guys, I'm back. Sorry about the wait there. So, even so, the game kept going. This should have been an ending, I thought. I mean, what else was there to do? I had no Pokédex, no Pokemon, not anything. What was I supposed to do? What was I supposed to be doing? I talked to everyone in town, but they all said the similar things. Are you okay? Still mourning, I see. Everything will be alright. Please, is there anything we can do? Stephen never replied to them, and they all simply said the same thing over and over. I couldn't put the game down now. This was all so strange. Curious, I headed off into the tall grass and eventually got into a battle with a Rattata. No Pokemon was sent out, just Stephen's sprite. I was wondering how I'd battle. Wild Rattata let you be. The battle ended without anything happening. This was certainly interesting, and it happened with every Pokemon I encountered. Wild Pidgey ignored you. Wild Ponyta wandered off. The music never changed either. No matter where I went, Lavender Town came from the speakers, following me sometimes. Slowed down slightly, sometimes not. I searched everywhere, every town, talked to everybody, wondered just what the hell I needed to do. My frustration was mixing with the depressing atmosphere of all this, making the experience altogether unnerving and uncomfortable. But I couldn't tear myself away. I was starting to get a bit angry, though. Nobody telling me anything besides giving me their condolences and trying to give me items like lemonade or coffee, each met with no. I slapped myself for idiocy, suddenly realizing how the likely answer was right in front of me. Pallet Town. Of course. When I went there, though, which took a long time, having to walk, no Pokemon to fly with, no bicycle to ride, and Steven only seemed to move half the regular movement speed, it wasn't much different. I first tried talking to Professor Oak. These things happen. You were just unlucky. Next, I tried Blue's sister. Please, don't leave home again. Red's mom wouldn't even talk to me at all. With nowhere else to go, I walked to the rest, finding the house from the beginning, which I had never entered since leaving Pallet Town. Inside was Mike, but talking to him was just as useless. Mike. I'm so sorry. I pondered for a moment if this really was the ending. Steven doomed to do nothing but roam Kanto in misery, haunted by the memories, forced to listen to everyone's concerns about him. As a last-ditch effort to do anything, I went to the bedroom and walked over to the bed. Steven, I'm going to sleep. The scheme faded to black for a moment, but slowly faded back in. The world having a black tint to it, the Mike's Sprite laying in the other bed. I assumed this meant it was night. Steven, I'm going to do it. Do what again? I had no idea. Tried, inspected everything in the room. Nothing happened. As soon as I left the house, another dialogue. Steven, it can bring her back. It can do anything. What the hell was it? Something that could do anything? I couldn't for the life of me figure it out. Wandering about, I tried to leave town the usual way. Steven, not that way. He wouldn't go any farther. I tried the homes. Steven, screw them. I quirked my eyebrow at that, forgetting for a moment this was not a real Pokemon game. The vulgarity just took me off guard. I continued to look around, but there was nowhere else to go. Until I accidentally stepped on the ocean, and Steven walked in. Only the upper half of his sprite visible, like swimmers you encounter in the Celeron gym. I didn't know he could swim. Steven. The missing one. Missing one? I paused for a moment. No, he couldn't possibly mean that. I hadn't tried the missing node trick on this hack yet, but it just fit too well. That had to be what he meant. I surfed all the way towards Cinnabar. I began to feel something was off. More so than this already was. Silence. The Lavender Town theme had stopped. There was no noise at all. Nor were there any Pokemon. I just kept going, finding Cinnabar and surfing up and down the East Coast. And behold, Wild Missing No appeared. Steven. Mine. Wild Missing No was called. What the hell? Steven didn't do anything. He just commanded the atrocity of broken data to join him. No, become his possession. And it did. I was getting more and more disturbed by this. Checking the start, I saw Missing No was not in my party, but instead an item, making things even stranger. I checked the trainer card as well. Steven had his back to me, his long hair draped behind him, his hands in his pockets. Nothing else. Remembering what he said at the start of the night, I realized what I had to do. I surfed the land and made my way northeast to where else? Lavender Town. Along the way, I noticed all the trainers oddly still out at this hour. Wouldn't look at Steven, all of them turning when he passed. Even those that were normally static, I tried talking to one of the officers in the guardhouse type buildings. Just go. They all said the same thing, though one sent chills down my spine. Sometimes death is for the best. My hands were sweating by this point. Steven was about to try the impossible, something some would see as a crime against nature, which many of these people shared that opinion. I steeled myself. It's just a game. It was just going to complete it. It took an eternity to reach Pokemon Tower, but I got there eventually, taking a deep breath and heading towards the tombstone. I remembered which one. The image of Steven standing before it was burned into my mind after all. First, I tried inspecting it. Nothing happened. I tried inspecting it. Steven. Mickey. Nothing happened. With a gulp, I opened the menu and selected the missing note from the bag. Oh, Steven, don't use it. I was reminded of when Professor Oak would magically tell you that you couldn't use a key item somewhere, like when using the bicycle in the building. The message this time was different, even worse. Steven responded to it. Steven, in a world that cheated me, why should I play fair? Steven used it. Steven obtained M, asterisks, quotations, $sign. What in God's name did I obtain? I couldn't tell you because the game took away my control. So, without my input, Steven began to leave the tower on his own, walking single step by single step. The lavender town theme started again as he left the tower and began his exaggerating slow journey against my will. Every time he crossed one of the borders where the music would change, it got progressively slower and more disturbing. By the time he reached Celeron City, it was a demonic rambling. It just stared, watching him, trying to guess where he was going. When it was getting more and more obvious, he was heading towards Pallid Town. The music had all but stopped when he got there, playing single note by single note. He went exactly where I had guessed, right to his own house, inside, and up the stairs. At this point, there was no music. Steven moved step by step, stopping at his brother's bed, turning to face him. At first, I thought the game froze. He didn't do anything. He simply stood there. I couldn't move him. I did, however, find out I could open the pause menu. I was terrified to look, but I couldn't stop myself. I selected his trainer card. There was a low growl noise like a distorted Pokemon cry. Steven was looking at me again, directly at the screen. He was hunched over. His bangs obscured his face. His hair was wild and feathered out. Between his bangs, there wasn't even a face at all, just black. 2 red eyes looking straight forward. A white grin contrasting with the darkness. That wasn't all. His name was S. Cavillation point 3v3n. I couldn't look away, my eyes glued to his, not breaking contact for some time. My vision was getting blurry until I couldn't see very well. My face grew wet. I was crying like a baby. There was nothing I could do but hold back the tears. I was with this boy from the start. I built him up to greatness and was then forced to watch his decline after a tragic accident. Now, he was this thing, this abomination. I watched him go insane. Halting my tears and wiping my eyes, I closed the trainer card and tried to save the game. Wanting to just quit, the game informed me that it was impossible. Nothing can be saved now. The pause menu wouldn't close no matter what I did, so with no other option I checked the bag. Nothing happened. I checked Pokemon and there was one. A single sprite met me. It had 0 HP, its status DD, its name M. I selected it and was greeted with 4 options. Status. It's her. Switch? Never. Close? No. Strangle. My fingers shaking, I selected Strangle and the menu closed. Showing Steven in the room again. Goodbye. Snap! The game shut itself off. I was more dumbfounded than frightened, and a bit of shock. I turned it back on the title screen showing the maniac Steven and a horribly glitched Charizard. I pressed start and then continue. All I saw was a zoomed out view of Pallid Town, showing Steven's home to the west, tall grass surrounding it, those unmovable stone blocks from the rest of the town. The image was completely static, no music, no movement, before fading to white, going back to the title screen. It was as it had been when I first opened it. A trainer and a Charizard. I attempted to hit continue. No. Okay, guys. I mean, wow. That creepypasta is probably one of my favorite all-time creepypastas at the moment. No exaggerations in there. No hyper-realistic blood. No of the usual forte bullshit of creepypastas usually come with them. This creepypasta was so fucking original, and it took chances where it shouldn't have. And the most contrived thing in the creepypasta was the Live at the Town music, which I have to say, for these type of creepypastas, that's all you really have to go on besides the Team Rocket theme, which is kind of goofy, not serious. Live at the Town is one of the most serious ones. I love how this built up. I love the character progression. It was long, but damn, it was worth it. You grew to like the character Steven, you liked Mickey, you even enjoyed his rival. You know, it had progression. You actually felt like things was going on in here. I liked the detail about the game, about the people you talked to. And just how it went from such a good, nice story to such a dark story in such a quick time. God, and you sit there, you never really know how Pokemon die a lot in the Pokemon universe. And to see that, it's very disturbing. It kind of makes you kind of feel for your Pokemon if something like that happened, you know. And, when I read it, it sends goosebumps down my shoulders and my back, which not many creepypastas do. So that really hit a spot for me, and I really enjoyed. For it being real, I actually believe this one is real. Not the story of him getting it, but the game existing, and this actually happening to somebody. And I've seen a lot of videos of Strangled Red, and I've seen the pictures and trainer cards of Strangled Red. From his innocent beginnings to his demented form at the end. It's very unsettling, which that's why I like it so much. It leaves you sitting there just, God, how would you feel if that happened to your Pokemon? What would you go through? And for him to kill his brother because of it, especially, and that's hard because, you're sitting there and you think how close you might have become with your Pokemon, because, in the game it took 30 hours, but in the game itself, how long was he actually with this Pokemon, the bonding you would have over it, and for your brother to be the reason it died, and you going insane and killing your brother to bring Mickey or your Pokemon back to life, it's really, it really fucks with your head a lot. I want to download the hack of this, and I might do a let's play of this one, because that's how much I really love this creepypasta. This one is, like I said, 10 out of 10, one of my favorite creepypastas of all time. But, no guys, but yeah, that's my thoughts on Pokemon Strangled Red. Let me check the time here and see what we're hitting on here. 3:24. It's pretty late, guys. I think I'm gonna end my podcast, my live stream here. I mean, I hope I made you guys happy. I did both The Amazing World Gumball Strangled, Grieving, and Pokemon Red Strangled. Guys, yet again, thank you for supporting my channel. Let's see if I can get 3 likes on this video for me to keep doing live streams of some creepypastas. If this can get up to 10 likes, I might possibly begin doing my original creepypastas, of actually doing the work of editing my breathing out, things like that. But you gotta really support me and give me 10 likes on this video, guys. But give me 3 likes, and I'll continue doing creepypastas at least on live stream for you guys. I'll try to make it at least once a week to do 2 to 3 creepypastas every week. Okay, guys? So hit that like button, share with my video with your friends. Let's make the Rose Army as strong as we can. The guards, the knights, the Rose Knights, as strong as we can, guys. Okay. Thank you for all your support, and thank you for following my creepypastas and my gameplay. You guys are the best people in the world, and I'll always bend over backwards to do these videos for you guys. Peace out.